Hi, welcome to podcast Loud Lens with Bing. I'm going to let him introduce you, but this is for you new photographers because so many of you reached out and said, everything's aimed at the professionals. So I got a newbie.
Hi, I'm Bing. I'm from Matchbox Cafe in the town centre. This lovely lady found me a few years ago and she's just stuck with me ever since. I can't get rid of her and I can't praise her enough. There's just so much about her that I've learned and understood. And it's just, yes.
Mate, I've not paid you for this.
I didn't say you had paid me for it. I love you.
I have notes. So I feel like, I'm going to hold this here. You and I have been friends for a while. Well, we were like, I bought from your cafe a while and we became sort of friends because I made it happen. I'm a big friend collector. And would you describe yourself? I don't think there's anything wrong with being a beginner photographer. You're not really a beginner in my eyes because you've been doing it a while, but you still consider yourself in there.
Fully. I mean, I'm literally a case of, I've done a few years previously before I actually met you, and I've tried different ways of trying to do photography, obviously you always do, with a phone, with a basic camera, blah, blah, blah. I've got a few props as well to show you later, guys. Otherwise, it's a case of, I have expanded and understood exactly what photography actually means and how you actually go further from that and enjoy it more.
Okay, so this episode is because people kept asking me. I got you the squeaky chair. Do you like it?
It's just
It's about the mental blocks primarily around being a beginner photographer, but I know we're going to expand upon that because you're a good person. So if you were to describe what kind of photography do you like, where do you sit, what's your forte? And if you tell me that it's because you like the really static spinny shots that I can never get right handheld.
Long exposures.
Yeah, I'm pants at those handheld, but you seem to have the knack of not having the shakes.
It's one of them, it's taken me years to get that sort of understanding and able to get that balance of just take a long exposure shot. It's not the easy thing to do. And to understand how to take it, it takes a lot of understanding. And it's taken me years to get to where I'm now.
You're being kind. I know how to do it. I just can't do it handheld. He can do it handheld.
I can do it freehold.
I know. I'm literally like shaking like a shitting dog. And you're like, Mr. Cool.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm being innocent. I'm being modest. I'm being innocent.
So what is your passion? Where's your passion come from? And also, what is it you like to photograph primarily?
Well, it's more so for the last 10 years, it's virtually, photography has taken a bit more of an interest for me anyway. So many times before I got hold of the cafe, I was self-employed myself anyway. And I used to go see extended family over in Hong Kong. So from that, it's a case of, I used to have time to take pictures. You usually do, you take holiday pictures, you take families and different outings and such like anyway, regardless. And you sort of, by that stage, I got to understand, I like taking pictures. And I thought, I can expand a little bit further. So
you went from snapping shots, like you like, yeah.
From the daily sort of take a picture of a instant camera type style and you just take a picture of something and you go along to take more pictures and you take better pictures, you take landscape pictures. And then it became a passion of me taking long exposure pictures. And from then, I
like your moon pictures.
And keep my trousers up, but I'm in the moon outside.
Yeah, because you did. I mean, I don't know how you do it because I look at the moon where you're taking it and it's a bit naff, but somehow you seem to capture it in this really nice little way. So Bing doesn't actually have a website. He just shares them on his own personal profile. So I can't show you them unless he decides to make them publicly randomly.
I'll ping a few pictures over to her. She can use my pictures.
Yeah, I'll whack them up for marketing purposes.
Absolutely.
But we've spoken at great length about this and about photography. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about these mental blocks. Do you think, and controversially, do you think there is quite the monopoly on money when it comes to targeting beginner photographers?
It's just horrendous. I mean, where do you want to start with that? I mean, it's not even funny. It's just, you're gonna get sucked into something somewhere, somehow, someone by someone of some sort. There is just, where do we start? Where
do you think there's this idea that if you don't have the best gear, you're not, like, it's really weird that when I started photography, people were happy using secondhand stuff, happy using like their dad's old stuff and whatever. But now it seems beginners must have the latest Sony to even just be a hobbyist. And I'm talking this from like the people in my group, which I teach. People are saying that, they feel almost embarrassed to bring out their old digital SLRs.
It's end of the day, if you can take a picture with something, be it a phone, well, you could do.
That's what I call my Nikon.
That's fine. If you can take a picture with something, even if it's just like a disposable camera, a small pocket camera, a full-on SLR, a DSLR, a mirrorless, whatever.
A Leica.
Well,
You've got a Leica, but it's currently in my safe because you let me borrow it, and I'm so precious about it.
It's a sort of a lost item that we sort of found in the family.
It is an heirloom piece. I will just say he hasn't given it to me. He's loaned it to me. It's a film camera from his beloved dad, who and I'm so precious because it doesn't belong to me. It's currently in my
Obviously,
safe.
I have no clue about film cameras at all, so I thought I'll give it to the one person who understands how to use a film camera. And now she's just too shit scared to use it, and it's literally a case of
It's so precious. I don't want to take it out. I'm going to use it. I have used it. I've got a project.
It
But
does look nice. It's really good condition for what I understand.
I think it's stunning.
But I have absolutely no clue how to use it. So hence, I'm too much of a mirrorless type person now. A digital camera.
You need to go on a film. I think we should advocate you going on to some sort of film experience.
Well,
another thing to learn. Another thing
You
to
sure
learn.
about that?
Yeah, I think you'll be good. I think you'll be really good.
Yeah.
So in terms of like the gear that you see out there, do you ever feel like that a lot of the times people are chasing the gear rather than the knowledge? Or
For sure. I mean, you can quite easily pay a four-figure sum for the latest, instant, newest Sony camera body, for the sake of, do you actually know how to use it?
do you know what? I want to say that's quite, I've been seeing, I remember going to a couple of shows, and there almost seems to be a missing end of the market, like the entry level stuff. Everything's chucking mirrorless at you. And I appreciate that's the newest technology, but there doesn't seem to be the cheaper end of the market, which would sort of start as the stepping stone in. Some brands do, but you don't often see it at the trade shows, which I'm always a bit like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, literally from trade shows, from my understanding and my knowledge of what it is, you're looking at a four-figure sum for a basic camera setup to get rolling. So for a camera body with a kit lens.
I want to say I am dragging you to the photo and video show.
Hopefully I'll be there.
I don't care that you have to go to the airport first thing in the morning.
I'm going to be so tight, but that's a whole different question.
Do you think social media has sort of changed how new photographers see themselves, and that has maybe put mental blocks or put blocks them, such as like, we have the imposter syndrome that creeps in. But I also think there's an element of Dunning-Kruger.
Yes.
I'm not teaching you, so you know what Dunning-Kruger is. For those who don't know what Dunning-Kruger is, basically, if you're not on the YouTube, it's already been up. It's basically where someone who doesn't have the knowledge thinks they're more knowledgeable, and those that have the knowledge don't think they're knowledgeable enough. And often I found people with not enough knowledge seem to think they know everything.
Well, you can blag it to a point, but when you need to come and show it and it fails.
I've experienced that in both professional level and I hate to use the word amateur. I think fledgling photographers are a nicer way to put it, because you're going to grow and learn and spread your wings.
Of course you do.
But do you think social media has really brought that to a forefront, the imposter syndrome? Like, you can't just exist as a happy photographer.
You can't. No, I mean, you've got to be something unique, something special, something sort of instant that you're able to recognise with a lot of people and just take upon yourself. But we can't be that. We can't be the individual person of who we are and just take a picture and just like without being criticised and sort of.
Yeah, I think social media has definitely opened up a lot of you to criticism, and us equally.
Sure.
But I think there's a lot of harshness on new coming into the scene photographers, regardless of what age you're at. Like, you kind of get this like, oh, you've not been here long enough. Oh, you're doing selective color, forgetting that we all went through the selective color phase. We're never going back, never go back. Or we all whacked up the clarity slider. And suddenly when you see newcomers doing that, everyone jumps on telling me it's awful, you're a terrible photographer, forgetting that we literally did that like ourselves. And I think there's a lot of pressure on new photographers to instantly be amazing.
They try to be, but when you don't understand how to use the camera to start with, and you try and take a picture of something that you're not quite sure, is it good enough? Is it going to be okay? Is it in focus? Is it out of focus? Is the rest of the settings okay? You're forever just criticizing yourself before you even got taken a picture. And it's like, well, why are we like that? Why can't we just take a picture and just be happy how good or bad a picture may be?
I think social media has a little bit to blame for that,
It
because
does.
if you're not getting likes, you're suddenly terrible. And I also think when people say you're a photographer, and I'm going to just say this, not everybody realizes it's a job. They all still see it as a hobby. Whereas you're like seeing it, everyone thinks it should be a job, so it should be amazing. Whereas you're seeing it as a hobby.
I'm still got sort of tinted glasses on this at all. So I'm still enjoying the buzz. I'm enjoying the excitement from it. It's just amazing that I can able to take pictures that I think are good. But when you show it to other people, they're going to criticize it, obviously, regardless. But it's a case. But obviously,
I'm going to bleep so much of this out. I'm not. I'm going to keep it up.
But But no, it's just the point of view of whoever the influencer is looking at. I mean, there is no unique way. There is your look and my look are never going to be the same, regardless.
But I still like hanging out, taking photos of you. I don't think of you when we're out, because we've done photo walks together and we hang out. I don't look at you as like an amateur. I hate that term. Like, you know your camera, you know how to use it. In fact, your camera's here now.
I bought a few cameras along with me just to show you.
I say a few, you've got quite a few.
No. I've only got a few. Literally.
Okay.
I've only got a few.
But you know how to use that. I mean, you can show it now.
Well, so for my very first basic little camera, a little Canon thing, a little pop-up.
I'm going to take this up because look how tiny this is. Sorry, Big.
It does work. It does work.
Do you know what's really cool is that these are coming back. Yeah. Like, I love this.
I mean, for the sake of, so this is my first proper camera that had a lot more features and settings that I could able to use and understand with what I wanted to do.
That's so cool.
So long exposures was great for using this camera. Despite you think, oh, well, where's the rest of it? It's just, no, it's seriously, it's just.
I love this. Do you know what? I would love to use it on a shoot. That's so retro. But it's not old technology. It's just.
No, what's this? Probably about 6-7 years old.
I know, that's fantastic.
Not great old, but it's irrespective. I mean, despite they're sort of saying the old is coming around back down to the new, so e.g. films coming back down again. Yeah. Whatever. So even these little pop-up ones are just, this is still
amazing. You can find these on like eBay and people are going crazy for them.
They are.
I love that. And what's else in the goodie bag?
So my other main camera that I picked
This is the beast.
This is my biggest toy. So this is my little Canon.
This is the new one?
This is the new one, yeah.
Oh.
So this is so I'm not gone full size, full frame, unfortunately. I'm still gone.
You don't have to say, why are you saying unfortunately? We've just talked about gate. You don't have to say unfortunately.
I know, but it's a case of, but for the price of this, what I picked this up for, this is a bargain. Perhaps it's a bargain.
I know you love this camera. You were very excited to tell me when you got this.
So it's a case of, my previous camera is similar to what this was. It just wasn't as grippy at the side here. So being this is a crop sensor camera, so it's a lot smaller against a full frame camera. It's easy to grab, but then I've got a smallish hand. I wouldn't say girlish hands, but I've got smallish hands. But it's still
massive hands compared to you. Do you remember that? Oh, I haven't got girlish hands by that definition because they're bigger than yours. So.
But otherwise, but functionality and features wise, this still has the main features what a full frame camera would have, but on a smaller scale. So it doesn't matter about the type it is, the price you want to pay.
I've seen the shots you've got from this, and they're great.
Yes,
and I find it mad that anyone would say sorry for having that camera because you love that camera and you know every part of that camera.
And it's one of them, I've learned to understand more about it anyway. So being for doing long exposures, you've got to learn.
So what lens did you say you had on that?
So currently I'm going away on holiday shortly anyway. So
for a whole month?
Well, it's 3 weeks, guys. It's
3 weeks, more than...
It could have been 6, but I have to shorten it down because I've got a business to run and people would be like...
And he's bringing me back a lucky cat.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So currently I've got stuck on there an 18 to 300mm lens, which is really excessive, but it's a case of from a fixed prime lens of 50,
which is what you were going to take.
Which I was good. Yeah. I think I might take anyway, but when I've suddenly realised from a previous shoot I was doing on a 50mm, wasn't quite, it was missing a lot of features. And now I understand from Khandie's point of view, when she says, you should have a zoom lens, you should have this, you should have that. It's like...
Well, I mean, should is such a strong word, but I know that given how you don't like carrying a lot of things, it makes sense for you to have that zoom lens, could give you the diversity of focal length.
Yes.
But I'm a lover for a 50mm. Yeah. I love a 50mm.
So my little 50mm, so it's a crop sensor, and despite everything else and the rest of the whole settings, and I don't understand it. But it's technically, it's only a 30mm, but with the crop sensor and it's got an optical zoom as well, it makes it up to a 50mm anyway.
Yeah, I love this, you know your kit. That's what's really important. I feel like when beginners, I hate using that word, beginner photographers start up, they have all these sort of like, oh my God, I need to know the exposure triangle. And people are quite easy to berate them. So you've had to kind of learn, but you've not gone and forced yourself to learn. You've kind of learned by practice, and us chin wagging and us hanging out, and not just me, you know, consuming content. But going back to full circle to how things are marketed, do you think the world of photography, it kind of ignores the amateur beginner level and just expects everyone to part with a lot of money and suddenly want to be a full-time pro photographer?
It literally a case of they expect you to know your kit to start with.
Okay.
And got to have a knowledge of like, yes, you're looking for this. They're expecting you to know this already before you even signed up for looking at a brand, a make, a design.
I'm quite privileged because I kind of jumped into photography and, you know, I've been able to make it my whole career, give or take. But I often look, when I speak to the amateur, the beginner scene, I didn't realise how almost like a tank of piranhas it can be.
It can be, yes.
And it wasn't until I started doing research for this podcast that I jumped into a beginners group and I watched how people who I know are seasoned pro not even do constructive criticism, just ripped people apart. And I was like going in like, at least make it a shit sandwich. Do you know what I mean? Like, at least do something. But no, they're not. No. And I don't think that makes photography necessarily a pleasant place to be.
It doesn't. I mean, it puts a lot of people off. I mean, it put me off a little while because every time
I remember this. I remember you having a wobble moment with your photography very early on because you felt not good enough. And in fact, you were going to never take your camera out and then we kind of bullied you to come to the fairground.
It wasn't so much that. It was a case of I knew the camera body I had at the time wasn't adequate for what I was looking for.
You'd outgrown your kit.
I wouldn't say outgrown it. It was just its functionality wasn't fitting into my requirements. Okay. Even though I'm not saying the old camera body still isn't worth it, it's still worth its money for what it is. It still does exactly what my new camera body does. It's just a slightly different design and look. So if I knew this from the go set, I would have picked this one to start with and wouldn't have wasted X amount to start with.
Did you feel like I still believe that sometimes the photography market forget there are people starting in photography. And even when I when I go to trade shows, I feel like the beginner scene is often neglected slightly.
It is. I mean, they expect you to be a seasoned pro who's done X amount of hours behind the camera, know your kit, know your stuff, know your lenses, know what the setup is, know what... I'm standing there, it's like completely boggled. It's like, can you run that for me again? Can we start with the basics? Can you just break this down? I think that's
why I like recommending to you like YouTubers to watch. Like I recommend Adorama, Gavin Hoey. He knows I love him, but he's a fantastic beginner photographer, and he's gone real back to basics in his latest videos. So hint, hint, go check him out. I do worry about what mental strain it puts on beginners. I know it's a hobby and you choose to do that, but the idea is that it doesn't feel as community-minded at times. There are some great communities within it. I'm not going to say everyone is. But when I'm in these Facebook groups and I was looking for research on this, I couldn't get over just how rude people were and forgetting that we all started somewhere.
Of course we do.
And I couldn't help but think maybe this kind of gives this level of elitism in photography. Like, I get it. Like, I don't have a Sony. And I get people go, what, you don't shoot with a Sony? And I equate them to the gym bro guys. Do you even lift, man? And I'm like, no. I'm also very open about where I get my kit from and my brand deals. And I share stuff. Yes, I've given stuff away. I don't want people to feel like there's an elitism in photography. And I just wondered, have you ever experienced that? Like at a certain time, or have you
always? I mean, you're always looking out for the next kid, but then it's a case of, do we need that next camera body? Do we need that bigger lens? Do we need a zoom lens? Do we need that 150 to 600 zoom lens? Yeah, I did pick that up by accident.
Did you really? Sorry, I'm looking at notes down there.
Yeah, I picked it up by accident. It's a case of, have I used it? About twice. I'm not going to lie. It's the most expensive camera lens.
Twice?
I haven't used it great. It's so ginormous. It's so big. It's so heavy.
We are talking about lenses here.
Yes. It's a big lens.
It's a big boy.
It's a heavy boy.
It's moto. He like them big. He like them chunky.
But yeah, you got to understand exactly what you're trying to take pictures of and what you're trying to sort of get from this. And it's a case of say yes. I was envious. I've seen like the new Nikon that come out. I was like, oh, do I change to Sony because everyone's going to Sony? Do I change it?
Yeah.
No, I'm happy with the setup I've got. My little Canon has done me well. It's done its justice.
Clearly it's done you well because your work's now, okay, it's in your own cafe, but your work is still getting applauded by other people. And I do wonder if the entire photography world seems to engineer itself to assume that everybody's going to be professional, earn money from being a photographer. And when you join these groups, they're literally just ruining the idea. We're a community. And then when people don't act within that community, what do you expect? You just shut up.
But you're not a community. You're literally sort of trying to tell the next person, like, you need this £1,000 prime lens. It's like, well, who's actually going to afford to buy one of them on the average person's wages? And it's like, oh my God, come on, be real, guys.
So if you haven't gone off and learned on expensive gear and stuff like that, where have you personally gone yourself to learn that has been free? And how have you been able to overcome the feeling of imposter and all that?
It's literally just YouTube. I mean,
I have a YouTube channel. You should totally look at it.
It's a case of, I mean, YouTube does give a lot of help, regardless of whatever you're trying to, it gives you an idea of understanding how to take pictures of whatever pictures. I'm still no closer to understand which picture I'm going to take still. I just take a picture and it looks good. Then Khandie comes on because, what you take that for? It's like, well, I can see what you're trying to take it for. And it looks nice, it looks cool, it looks funky. And it's like...
He's basically saying I'm a douche. And I agree. No.
But it's a case of, but there are times where I have taken pictures and I'm literally critical of myself. It's like, well, why have you just spent 20 minutes doing a long exposure shot and it's come out looking blurry. It's like...
You are really hard on yourself. And I don't know where that comes from, because we're all stood around you like going, oh my God, you managed to stay still for that long. And then you're like, it's a little bit blurry. I'm like, yeah, but it's meant to be. You also handheld it. And you're like, yeah, but it's got a little blur. Meanwhile, mine looks like I took it like on a roller coaster.
On the roller coaster, try to take the roller coaster.
Yeah, and yours is like a slight tiny blur. If you zoom in, you can just see it. But you're Mr. Perfection. And I applaud it. But equally, I see how much trauma it causes you.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of sort of prestige from taking a picture. You want to get that right shot. You want to take that good shot. You don't want to sort of sit there for hours and trying to keep doing repetitive picture takings of the same object. You want to just snap and go, and just take it. Just get a picture, take a picture, get something. Hopefully you get the right shot first time. But
I mean, I probably shoot a lot of dud shots, but thank God it's digital. Even when I shoot film, I just don't publish those ones.
Exactly.
I'm just referring to the notes just to make sure, because how do you measure then your progress or success without seeking it from others? I mean, how do you personally know you're progressing?
I think it's more so of just understanding what I've taken from the first picture of my career as a photographer, so to say, to where I am now, and see how I can actually improve myself from there on in. So we're all going to take a picture that's never going to be perfect first time. We want to try and recreate that picture second time, third time, fourth time. And we keep doing it.
You're right. I was trying to be like, bullshit, well, I do. No, I don't. I just did a headshot session. And honestly, I thought like, I think I left the lens cap on once. I literally was like that.
We've all done something really stupid. I've literally sort of, just as I take a long exposure, just really knocked the camera by just as I'm walking away from it. It's like, oh my God, that's going to root. But no.
What do you want to see more from the community when it comes to embracing newer photographers, or what would you like the community to offer more? Be it the brands that are in the community, the social groups, what would you like to see more from them?
It's hard to say, because everyone's out for photography for a different reason. There is no one correct reason. So my view of photography is going to be different to yours, to someone else's, to Joe Boggs down the road. So for what I'm looking for, I'm just basically to see what the setup looks like, see how you've managed to achieve what you've achieved taking pictures of. Because there are setups where I've seen people who've taken a picture of a long exposure. I've got to use a long exposure as my reference. And it's a case of their settings don't make sense, because the settings that I've got mine set up is completely different to their settings. And this is, well, this is optimized for this, that zoom, this point. It's like, but my settings are not even close to yours.
I think the other thing is, as much as I wish, when people share their settings, I wish they would say, it's like a recipe, right? You got to sprinkle your own in there.
Yes.
Because like, you need to have the exact lighting, the exact situation weather-wise. You've got to be in the exact place. And I feel like my settings are a guide. They are not a gospel.
That's right.
And I don't necessarily believe that has always articulated across to new photographers, because I still give seminars and people ask to know what my settings were. And I'm like, yeah, she's, oh, so if I do that, will I get that light? No, if you were with me at that time, you would get that.
Yes.
And I think
it's more of a reference point against anything else. At least it's a reference of understanding of what they've managed to achieve from taking a picture of such and such, of where their location is, what this location is about. And you got a reference point of like, oh, well, they set it to blah, 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 to blah, 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 to this, to ISO, to that's whatever. At least you got a reference point of what it could be. Not.
Do you struggle then with realising? So this is something that I've noticed a little bit more. I've started sharing my raw with my edited, because I feel like if I give you my settings and then I've edited it, the settings mean jack all.
That's right.
Because I've overexposed it, or underexposed it. I always tend to underexpose. And I wonder then, if people were more up for showing the raws, you would have a more relatable experience with photography than seeing the glamorized end result and the settings that you think went with that picture, but actually it's the settings and then the icing and then the little jiggery pokery did in Photoshop.
Yeah, it's just, but I mean, there's a lot to take away from this regardless. There is no clear point of view of saying this is going to work every single time. If you set it to this parameters, this settings, this setup, it's going to work each time, because it won't. Okay. It won't.
So to conclude, because we've kind of done everything on new photographers, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If there was one bit, or maybe 3 bits, I like a 3 number. If there was a bit of advice that you could give to a new photographer who was, 1, struggling to find their place in the community, 2, worried about showing their work, and 3, thinking they didn't have the right gear, what would you give them? That was a lot of questions.
That was a lot of questions.
Let's do the gear one. They didn't think they had the right gear.
Gear-wise.
I'm going to sneeze.
Gear-wise, just
don't believe the hype.
Literally,
don't get into debt.
Seriously, you don't need the newest camera, setup, body, kit, everything, shebang. No.
I see some great stuff done with kit lenses.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't used my kit lens correctly, but then I've gone off.
What did you do with it?
It's still at home, still packaged up. I have yet to break the seal as such because I just haven't used it at all.
You got that massive lens.
I've got that massive sort of, it's just be real, just be realistic in your budget. Don't go mad with your budget.
Yeah.
Have a stable budget. Whatever your budget may be, if it's
I'm all for
£50,
buying secondhand MPB, London Camera Exchange, Wex. I'm also in for buying slightly off-brand. If you're not a pro and it's not like a massive niggle point, like when people talk about colour science, I'm like, can you talk to a client and ask them what colour science is? They don't care.
Yeah. No.
The only people who also don't shoot for other photographers, shoot for yourself.
Yes.
If you don't have a client base, shoot for yourself. Yes. To hell with all the other photographers. There's a guy who I'm friends with who his photography is there. I don't know, it's not mind-blowing, but he really enjoys the passion. And I absolutely love hanging out with him because his passion for him, he snaps everything. If a dog did a poop on the floor, he'd be photographing it. If someone put rubbish in the bin, he photographs everything obsessively. And I kind of love that tenacity.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's any less than me. No. And I don't want him to feel any less. And I hope he never realizes who I'm talking about because that'd be awful. But he probably will because he probably listens to this podcast. Oh, crap. But I love him. That's what I'm going to say. I love that tenacity. But in terms of community-wise, how do you fight there's not many safe space on the internet, is there, to exist?
No. It depends on where you want to show your work, how you want to show your work.
Or if you want to show your work at all.
Obviously, yes. Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got my own Instagram page of myself that I put a few pictures on there myself. And it's a case of, it's what I've taken pictures of. And I've got a few pictures within the cafe that I've taken. They're quite cropped out and cropped in, and just resized. If I blew them up to a bigger size, I'd be more conscious about it and be more...
I really like them. I really think people should print their work off and share. If you're proud of it, I think you should share it. And I think your work, I love it. I love the fact that you
I think it's more so because for myself, for being a business owner anyway, because yes, I do run my own business and do have my own clientele of people anyway. So trying to... be on the level of what I do for my career as a normal day-to-day job to my photography. I was still want to be able to show people that I can still multitask to a certain point. Like I can cook and I can take a picture.
People love your photography. I mean, you made someone else saw your photography. I went, right, I'm bringing my photography in, didn't they? Yeah, and we have like, I've never put mine up in yours to place, but I don't ever want to. It sounds really awful, but I really enjoy seeing your work up there.
And it's nice to see other people's work, regardless you want to see your own work, because you see your own work every day.
Oh God, yeah, look around the room.
It's a case of, but it's nice to sort of, you look at it, it's like, oh, well, that's a good...
Yeah, but mate, it's good because I've done like 10 years on it and I've been able to hyper-focus.
Absolutely.
I think that's the other thing. I think more of the photography community needs to... you don't have to teach everybody, but I think we definitely need to be kinder and more aware. While we're all running off and buying these 10, 5, whatever it is, grand cameras, there are people doing great stuff with very basic cameras, and there are people doing exceptional stuff with exceptional cameras equally. But we are very much geared to, it's got to be all new gear. You've got to have the best gear, aren't we? And in terms of marketing and the brands. And I know that because they're all trying to make money, but there is something to be said about this amateur, I hate using that term, amateur. There is such inspiration in there. And I enjoy being part of these Facebook groups and seeing the work that these people are trying, because they're not, I don't want to say they're not following trends too much, or they're not trying to impress somebody.
They're just the average person who enjoys taking pictures of something, somewhere, someone, somehow, and they just enjoy it, regardless of whatever your selective taking pictures is. So mine's landscape, mine's more sort of long exposures against anything else. So me trying to take a portrait picture, I can't do that
at all. You just haven't learned yet.
But it's a setup that I'm not familiar with anyway. But
you don't have, it doesn't spark the passion in you, does it? No.
So for me, to do the portrait picture is really hard work. I can't get the hang of the settings, the setup, the know-how. But then it's a case of if the person enjoys taking the picture of whatever they're taking the picture of and they're happy by it, I'm happy to show them all my pictures. If I had a chance to show all my pictures, I would. I have no problem with that.
I love that.
But it's a case of I've got nothing to sort of, I can show you my good sides, I can show you my bad side, I can show you some of the worst, I can show you the difference I'm trying to work upon. I'm still learning. This is still a learning career for me anyway, regardless. So I think the community needs to see that despite someone like yourself who's had a seasoned pro who's done many years of work, who's done many ambassadorial things and such like anyway.
I enjoy giving back to this community though.
And it's a case of, but it's nice to learn from others from yourself. And so you can teach me a few things along the way.
Not many.
There's a few things you can teach me.
In conclusion, Bing, because we've been going on this kind of massive talk about new photographers. So say that if there is a new photographer who's listening to this and they're like, I'm going to share my work for the first time. I'm going to put it out there.
Do it. Just do it.
Is there space for them? Don't pause. That gives me fear.
It's not. There's always space for everyone. To trying to get noticed by someone is the harder part. Trying to get your work to be noticed by someone who's going to love your work and love your imaging.
But if you're, who do you think are beginners trying to get them to love the work? Do you think sometimes they just want that approval to say they're on the right path?
I don't think it's even that, because you can. I've shown my pictures with a few people and it's had mixed results regardless. I think if they just want to put their pictures out, if it's a good or bad picture, just put it out there. Let's see, have a look and see what they think of what your picture taken.
I think you need to be very selective which Facebook groups you go in, because there is always douchebags in them.
Yes.
And I always find the ones that are the loudest douchebag are the ones with the most worst work.
Absolutely.
They claim to be professional and then just not. I like to think it's encouraging, which is why at the photo and video show, I'm going to do that free-for-all conversation where you can come and find me. It was going to be like, you can ask me any question. I'll help with as much as I can. We're going to have a few other professionals come in. And the idea is that you can ask without fear. And I'm also going to put my business number out there. So if you're uncomfortable speaking out loud, you can WhatsApp it to us and I can actually like read it out without identifying you. Because I think that's always really nice, because not everybody learns the same way. Not everybody feels comfortable exposing themselves in that way.
Even with the basis of taking a picture, and we still get it wrong. I've got it wrong many times. Regardless, taking a basic
I still
picture,
get it wrong.
We all get it wrong regardless. But if you keep getting it wrong, but you don't understand why, and you want someone to sort of able to help you, or who is able to help you, why not ask? I mean, it's no harm in just asking. It's like,
I do think some pros almost feel like, and this is from the Facebook group, so I'm going to quote, I think it's written down here somewhere. There are many professionals who will not help because it's beneath them. And I'm like, no.
That's just so bad.
But it's really weird. Amateurs are saying that, because I can absolutely give at least 3 examples that's happened to me when I've asked for advice in an environment where you were expected to be able to ask for advice. It was at a talk at a thing, and the guy went, "Oh no, you can book in a free seminar for that." And I was like, "Not free seminar. You can book in a seminar for that and pay for it." And I was asking something about I can't remember what it was. It was about a retouch thing. And he was like, no, anything to do with that, I only do via private lessons. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I Googled it and found it anyway. But I know that knowledge is something that you can pay for and access to. And I don't begrudge that. But it's more the fact that people, it's not always the friendliest environment to be in, I don't think. And there is some great pockets and great communities, but
I think that's in any community, regardless.
Yeah.
Regardless of photography, regardless of my background of cooking as well, we're all going to be that.
I'm more a chef than a cook, mate.
Well, I'm just a bit of a dab hand, sort of. Yeah.
You can fix a radiator as well.
I can fix a lot of things. But
and plumbing.
I've just done plumbing this morning, but it's a whole different question. I know. Yeah. I'm a jack of all trades technically, but I'm a
Well done, you, mate. He also helped me sand this floor. So.
Well, no. I lent her the sander. She did it herself. I'm not
technically.
Yeah.
But yeah. So being.
But anyways, yes. So no, I mean, it is that sort of snobbiness of like, oh well, I'm better than you. I can take better pictures than you. I don't. Why are you coming to me about it? Why? No, I'm happy to tell you how to cook that dish and tell you how to get that setting right. Tell you how to make that Yorkshire pudding correctly. How to just do some. I'll tell you the recipe if I had the chance to. All I'm asking for is like, I'm trying to take a portrait picture and it's a bit blurry or it's a bit out of focus. What do I need to do? Put it on a tripod. Okay, excluding that, what else could I be doing?
I think I told you about the 3 point of anchorage.
It is.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, no. I mean, you always get those people who literally want to sort of bully them down, think they're better than everybody else regardless.
I find it really, the other thing, just on a side note that I've noticed, when a beginner photographer has the expensive kit, everyone also hates them instantly. Absolutely. And I'm like, why? Just because they have the privilege of buying it? Like if you look at marketing, it is aimed at.
It is.
It is. And I was like, I don't get that anyway. So Bing, this has been great. I have to admit.
Thank you so much.
This is Bing. I would put all his socials below, but I don't think you have any.
I'll feed all the details in due time.
or one of them.
That's enough. That's enough.
This has been
me.
The Loud Lens of me, Khandie, and we've been talking about the mental blocks and the issues surrounding being a new photographer in the photography industry. Thanks.